Welcome to Everyday Linux User, and today's video we're going to be reviewing Mageia Linux. Now, when I very first started using Linux, the first Linux I ever tried was called Mandrake, and I got the CD for it off a cover of a magazine. And I had a beaten up old PC that my father-in-law gave to me. I already had my own PC that was running Windows XP, I think it was, but he gave me the computer and I had a CD for Mandrake. And it was my first attempt at getting Linux up and running, and by hook or by crook I got most of it working, but a few of the peripherals didn't work. And obviously this was back in the early noughties, so and a lot's changed since then. And then Mandrake renamed itself, it rebranded itself to Mandriva, and then subsequently Mandriva went away and Mageia took its place. I think there's another distribution that was called Open Mandriva came along as well, but Mageia is the phoenix out of the ashes of the original Mandriva project, I believe. And I had switched from Mandrake to OpenSUSE, and then eventually I moved on to Ubuntu during Ubuntu's heyday, which I believe was around the 904, 909 stage of Ubuntu. I think that was their best release. Before they before they came out with Unity, it was great, and then it's just gradually changed over the years. But yeah, Mageia, I've not always had the best of times with. Sometimes it feels a bit flaky, but I'm going to enter this review with a completely open mind because I haven't used it in some time. So we'll see how it gets on. Now, if we look at Distro Watch, Mageia is sitting down here in 16th in the list. And it's gone up. It was down in the quite low down in the list, but obviously release of a new version always boosts these things up. So it's come back up the list quite a long way. So yeah, Mageia is a fork of Mandriva Linux formed in September 2010. It's a community project and whose goal is to develop a free Linux-based operating system. Well, yeah, okay. So that's Mageia. So let's look at their website, mageia.org. There is an installation guide which I'll link to this video. But essentially, you go to this website and you click this download link here. There's all sorts of links along the top. It tells you. It's got an About Us page, it's got download support, etc. But we're not reviewing the website, we're reviewing the distribution itself. So during the installation, it's fairly straightforward. I haven't dual booted. I don't like dual booting anymore. Back when Mageia first came onto the scene, I used to dual boot quite a lot. But now with more modern PCs, I'd rather use a virtual machine if I'm going to try it out for the first time rather than dual boot. And if I want to use the actual operating system, I will install it onto the bare bones metal. And rest assured, this is installed on bare bones. This is not a virtual machine I'm running off. This is an actual PC. So during the installation, the only issue I had was during the network stage. I run off an Ethernet cable, so that worked fine. But when choosing the Wi-Fi, it couldn't pick up my Wi-Fi card, which is a Realtek CE8821C, I believe it is, card. So it couldn't find that, so it wouldn't pick up the Wi-Fi. But now, after installation, I've gone to the network, and you can see it has been picked up, and I have been able to connect to my Wi-Fi, so it's all working perfectly well in that sense. Now, I don't know if running the updates during the installation helped with that or not, whether it installed a newer version of the kernel or what it did, but it's definitely working. The other thing to note was, and this isn't going to affect most people, but it affected me that whilst running the simple screen recorder, it wouldn't record properly. It kept flickering, but I turned off the compositor, and that seems to have solved the problem there. I also installed some codecs, which I'll show you in a minute. But essentially, when you first get into Mageia, you get this welcome screen. You've got media sources. I recommend going into here. You have to type in your password. And one thing I would recommend is turning on the tainted release and tainted updates, because that gives you access to more software. Now, tainted means it's commercial software or commercial codecs and stuff like that. It's not. It actually says what it is here. These packages, example audio and video codecs for certain multimedia or commercial DVDs, they may infringe on patents or copyright laws in certain countries. So that's why it's called tainted. There's also backports. You might want to install that if you can't find what you're looking for. Under the update tab, you can check for system updates. Again, you need to enter your password. And I should see I've got nothing to update because I am completely up to date already. Under the MCC, we've got the control center. So there's quite a lot going on in here. At the top you've got software management for installing and removing software. So if I click on there, you can see it's come up with this basic software center. And if I do help about, it's called RPM Drake. So you can find things like say Firefox. It's already installed, but search result Firefox, and same with Steam. You can install Steam. Now, I've installed some applications myself to try this out, so not everything that says it's installed is installed. I will go through that shortly. But this is your basic package manager for searching and installing software. Under hardware, this is how you configure things. Now, I did have a problem with my monitor. If you followed my install guide, I chose a plug and play monitor, and it picked up successfully that it was an Acer monitor, but it had the refresh rate too low, so it was flickering on the screen. So all I had to do was go into the screen setup and change the hertz that it's running at. So if I right click and show you this, it was running at 60 hertz. My screen's running at 75 hertz, it doesn't flicker. So that sorted that out. You could configure 3D effects, set up the graphical server, printers. When I first clicked this, it'll ask you to, like, I've got a HP printer, and it asked me to install the HP Lip software, and then I was able to add this in. It wasn't as straightforward as it is with some distributions. I had to type in the URL for my printer. I've had this on other distributions where I had to type in the URL, but then once I typed it in, it's found that that is a HP DeskJet. It's then installed the drivers, and it works perfectly well. Network and internet, you can set up your Wi-Fi and stuff like that, remove connections. You've got date things, you've got snapshots. I believe this is for backups, and it's going to install a piece of software called Drac Snapshot, and that will enable you to do backups. Network sharing, you can configure Samba shares for accessing Windows folders, and there's NFS and WebDAV as well. Then you've got local disks that you can manage your disk partitions, securities for setting up your firewall, and they've got boot settings in here. So this is a whirlwind tour. This isn't a setup guide. It's a review of Mageia. I will give some hints along the way, but this isn't a setup guide. In the install section, RPM Drake's installed by default, but you can also install DNF Dragora. I did, and this is what DNF Dragora looks like. And again, you can search for things like Firefox. And you can see I've got it installed, and Steam's installed as well. Now the only thing I can't see is how to install Flatpaks, but I'm going to come back to that. Then under applications, you've got common applications that you can install. So under features, you want to install your codecs. So I've installed video and audio codecs. Firefox is installed. You can install qTorrent. VLC is already installed. Then under games, Steam I installed, but it wasn't installed by default. But all you have to do is click the install button. It's perfectly straightforward. And then you've got these other games you can install as well. And under internet, it gives you Firefox, FileZilla for FTP, the Chromium web browser, email clients. These are the things you can install. I'll go through what is installed shortly. Again, under video and audio. So basically you can install quite a few things just from this screen here without going into the software managers. So if you want, GIMP's installed by default, and then system and programming. Then under your configuration, it's an about, and then more information for documentation and things like that. So close that. Let's look at the applications that are installed by default. Under internet, there's quite a lot actually. Most of the KDE tools are here. So Firefox, FileZilla installed by default. You've got the Kmail, which is the mail client, default mail client for KDE. You've got Conqueror as well, which is a web browser as well. So you've now got two web browsers on your machine. KTorrent client. Aggregate is quite good for RSS feeds if you want to subscribe to RSS feeds. Under Office, LibreOffice, we've got the full Office suite there, plus all these other tools. Remember, it was a 4 gig download, so you'd expect quite a few packages installed. You've got GIMP, which is your drawing and image editing package. Color Paint, which is like a more like Microsoft Paint. Sound and Video, Pulse Audio is installed by default. I've installed Simple Screen Recorder. Strawberry, I don't know what that is. Oh, Strawberry is a lot like Clementine, so it's an audio player. Under Tools, quite a lot of tools. Emoji Selector, the HP UI scan is probably installed when I installed my printer. Under Development, Games, Steam wasn't installed, I installed that. Science is just mathematics. So that's what you get by default. Let's have a look at some of the other things we might want to do. Let's try Bluetooth out. So I've turned on my Bluetooth speaker. We're going to add a new device, and it's picked up my speaker. And now, did that beat me? My speaker's gone off, or is it okay? So last video I created was how to set up a Linux web server. Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video I'm going to show you how... That was very loud. The volume's obviously very high on this. Let's turn that down. Wow, let's go down like that. Try again. Set up a web server using Debian. Now this web server is going to be used for development purposes only. I'm not recommending that you make this live. So there we go. That's Bluetooth working. So internet, Bluetooth, printer, hardware support, really good. So I was looking up how you install things like Chrome, and very similar to how I'd install it with Debian. So first thing I would do, so we're going to need a terminal open for this. And you can copy and paste this command in. I know what it's going to say. Gary's not in the sudoers file. So you don't belong to the sudoers, so you have to follow this guide if you want to add yourself to sudoers. Alternatively, you can just switch to the root user, and we can install Chrome this way. So copy that command, paste, add in the key, and then verify the key. It should look something like that, and you can see it ends in FJG, so that looks fine. And then saying go into the Mageia Control Center. Go to Manage Keys, go down to Chrome, add, choose the key to add, there's this one here, click OK, and then we're back to the terminal. Now there's a bit of kerfuffle, but what I'm trying to show you here is there's a wiki guide and it gives you a step-by-step of how to install that software. I'm going to show you a different way that's a bit easier in a minute. So that command's now ended, so hopefully you see Chrome is there now and we can launch it. Now you might not want to use Chrome because some people don't, but the point of this was to show that if you can't find it in the software center, do a Google search and there's possibly a Mageia wiki. And the other thing you want to do is look at Flatpaks. Now Flatpak I think was installed by default, but if not, you can run these commands. But what I would also say is you want to install this Plasma Discover. So if I was you, I would go to your RPM Drake, DNF Dragora, and then search for Discover. If you're using GNOME, then you want to use the GNOME Software Center. But you can turn that on and click Apply, click OK. And the reason for installing Discover will become clear in a minute. If we minimize everything that's on here now, and go into Discover, if you go to settings, you'll see FlatHub's installed and it's set up. So we should be able to search for things like Chrome, and you can see Flatpaks. So rather than going through all the commands for just installing Chrome, you can install the Flatpak version. This is a game changer in terms of Linux, that every distribution has the ability to install Flatpaks, and therefore you only need another tool once you've installed Flatpaks, and you can install most common applications. For instance, Visual Studio. You've got Visual Studio Code available there if you're a software developer. Steam, all the applications. If you can't find it in the normal package manager, you'll be able to find it in Flatpak. And the benefits of Flatpak compared to normal applications is that it comes with all the dependencies linked in. So once you've installed it, it should work without any further libraries needed to be installed. The downsides of Flatpaks are the size of them, because they've got everything inside the container. It makes the size of the package bigger than it is with a native installation of the package, because normally a package would share libraries with all the other packages on the system. So anyway, that's how you install Flatpak. So that's possible. I'm liking the wiki that I'm seeing with Mageia. That's good. I'm more than happy in terms of documentation in that sense. Now desktop, this is standard KDE, so configuring wallpaper, right click, you've got Mageia artwork team here, and then you've got the KDE wallpaper here. Now you can get new wallpaper, simply click on that, you can use your own wallpapers, but you can install something like this. There we have it. The Iceland wallpaper is now installed, and that makes the desktop fairly bright and vibrant. You can go slideshow, picture of the day. There's also various plugins. And you can see there's leaves actually falling from the tree. So that's kind of a nice novel thing to be doing there. But that's part of KDE. That's not necessarily Mageia only. So what do I think of Mageia? In the main I've actually had a positive experience. The installation was easy enough. I've got set up and running. KDE works fine. It's got a decent set of tools installed by default. I don't know how easy it is to use for a new user. I think you're gonna maybe get a little bit frustrated, but if you persevere, you'll get used to it. The tools involved, there is this URPMI tool for installing software, but there's also DNF, which is common to Fedora, so you can use that as well. You've got the graphical tools for installing software. Once you've got the hardware set up and you've learned how to install software, there's not much else to it. Now obviously I had the problem with the screen recording, having to turn off the compositor. That's not ideal, but it's not going to affect everyone. Set up printer was a little bit fiddly, but not too bad. You saw Bluetooth working quite easily. That was my first attempt at trying Bluetooth, and you saw there was no bother there. So all in all, quite decent. Would I recommend it? I'm not sure. Give it a go in a virtual machine. See how you get on, and if you like it, then go for it. And that's the end of the review. If you like the review, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.